"Where's your thing, boy?" the rancher asked, his eyes narrowing as he spotted, "Where's your thing, boy?" The rancher asked, his eyes narrowing as he spotted a small figure moving quickly near the barn. The morning sun was still low, and the air carried the crisp smell of fresh hay and earth. Dust swirled gently around the feet of the young boy, who froze when he realized the man was looking straight at him. His heart began to pound. He had hoped to get away without being noticed, but the rancher's sharp gaze had already caught him. The boy swallowed hard, unsure how to answer. The rancher was a large man, broad-shouldered, with a weathered face that seemed carved by years of sun and wind. His hands, strong and rough from work, rested on his hips as he stepped closer. Every step he took made the boy feel smaller, as though the ground beneath him was shrinking. "I said, where's your thing?" the rancher repeated, his voice low but firm. It was the kind of voice that demanded attention and left little room for lying. The boy shifted nervously, tugging at the sleeve of his worn shirt. His mind raced, thinking of how to explain. He had found something earlier that morning while exploring near the edge of the fields, a small, shiny object partially buried in the dirt. It seemed important, and he thought it might be his ticket to being noticed or even praised. But now, faced with the rancher's stern expression, that excitement faded into worry. The boy finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. I found it near the old oak tree, sir. I was just looking at it." The rancher's eyes softened for a brief moment, but the suspicion remained. "Near the oak tree, huh? That's a long way from here for a boy your age. And you didn't think to tell anyone before coming back with it?" He crouched slightly, bringing his face closer to the boy's. "That's not how we do things on this ranch." The boy nodded quickly, understanding the gravity of his mistake. He wanted to explain that he didn't mean any harm, that he was just curious. But words seemed to get stuck in his throat. Instead, he held out the small object, hoping the rancher would see that it was harmless. It was a small, polished stone, glinting in the sunlight. Its smooth surface reflected the light in a way that made it almost magical, and the boy had been fascinated by it since he first spotted it in the dirt. The rancher reached out slowly and took the stone from the boy's hand. He turned it over, examining it carefully. For a moment, there was silence. The boy held his breath, waiting for the anger to erupt. But instead, the rancher's expression changed. There was a flicker of curiosity and then something else. Recognition. This isn't just any stone," the rancher said, his voice quieter now. "Where did you say you found it?" "Near the old oak tree, sir," the boy repeated, a little more confidently this time. The rancher's brow furrowed as he thought. That part of the field had always been quiet, almost forgotten, except for the occasional wild animals or wandering travelers. No one in the family had ventured there for years. It was unusual for someone, especially a young boy, to go so far alone. "The oak tree, you say?" he muttered. "Oh." Then he looked back at the boy, his eyes searching for honesty.
"You went there by yourself?"
"No one else with you?" The boy shook his head. "No, sir. I wanted to see if there was anything interesting. I didn't mean to cause trouble." The rancher stood up straight and tucked the stone into his pocket. "Curiosity can be a good thing," he said thoughtfully, "but you must be careful. That part of the land, it has stories, old stories. And some of them aren't meant for children to wander into alone." The boy's eyes widened. He had always loved stories, especially stories about the ranch's past. His grandmother had told him many tales of the old days, of treasure lost and secrets hidden among the fields and forests. But he had never imagined that anything he found could actually be connected to those stories.
"What kind of stories, sir?"
he asked eagerly, forgetting his earlier fear. The rancher gave a small smile, something rare and almost kind. "Long ago, before your time, people said the land had signs, things left behind to guide the worthy. Sometimes it's a stone, sometimes a mark, or a token that only someone with curiosity and care can find. But not all of it is safe. You must learn patience and judgment before seeking such things." The boy listened intently, captivated. He could feel a sense of adventure stirring inside him, mixed with caution. He realized that he was standing on the edge of something much bigger than a simple morning exploration. The rancher's gaze softened again, but there was still a seriousness there. For now, you did well to bring it here. Keep your eyes open, but remember that not everything is for the taking. Some things are meant to be understood first. The boy nodded solemnly, storing the words in his memory. He felt proud and slightly relieved that the rancher was not angry. At the same time, a spark of curiosity burned brighter in him than ever before. What other hidden things could be out there waiting for someone brave enough to notice them? After a moment, the rancher's tone shifted. Come with me. I want to show you something. He led the boy across the yard, past the grazing horses and the barn where the morning chores were beginning. The boy followed, eager to see what might come next. As they walked, the rancher explained the routines of the ranch, the care of the animals, and the importance of observation. He told the boy how to notice details in the environment, changes in the soil, the behavior of the animals, and even the wind patterns that could reveal hidden streams or paths. The boy listened carefully, realizing that every lesson was more than just chores. It was about understanding the land, respecting it, and discovering its secrets slowly. Finally, they arrived at a small shed at the edge of the property. The door creaked open to reveal shelves lined with various objects, stones, tools, and trinkets that the rancher had collected over the years. Some were ordinary, but others had unusual markings or shapes that hinted at history or mystery. The rancher reached into his pocket and pulled out the stone the boy had found. "This belongs with the others," he said. He placed it gently on a shelf among similar objects. Each of these has a story, and perhaps one day you will learn them. But for now, you must focus on learning the land and yourself. Understanding comes before possession. The boy nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and reverence. He realized that the ranch was not just a place to work. It was a place to learn, explore, and grow. Every rock, tree, and path had a story, and he was at the very beginning of discovering them. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting golden light across the fields, the boy felt a sense of belonging he had never experienced before. The rancher looked at him with a quiet pride, recognizing that this boy, though young, had the curiosity and heart needed to understand the land. And perhaps, in time, he would uncover even greater secrets hidden within it. The morning passed quickly, filled with lessons, laughter, and careful observation. The boy felt a sense of purpose stirring within him. He understood that the stone he had found was only the beginning, a key to a much larger world waiting to be explored. And as he worked alongside the rancher, he realized that patience, respect, and curiosity would be his guides on this journey. By the time the sun reached its peak, the boy was tired but exhilarated. He had learned more in a few hours than he had in many days, and though he did not know what the future held, he was certain of one thing. He was ready to explore, discover, and grow, one careful step at a time. The boy woke early the next morning, the smell of dew and earth filling his nose. Birds chirped softly in the distance, and the first rays of sunlight slipped through the cracks in the wooden shutters of the small farmhouse. His mind was still buzzing with thoughts of the previous day. The stone, the rancher's stories, and the hidden world that seemed to exist just beyond the fields. He felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. He knew that today, like every day, would bring something new, and he was determined not to miss a single detail. He quickly dressed in his worn shirt and trousers and stepped outside. The cool morning air brushed against his face, and he took a deep breath, savoring the scent of fresh grass and the distant smoke from the farmhouse chimney. The rancher was already outside, inspecting the fences and checking on the animals. The boy approached quietly, careful not to disturb the man's work. "Good morning," the boy said softly. The rancher looked up and nodded. "Morning. You slept well?" "Yes, sir," the boy replied, feeling a little shy. "I kept thinking about the stone and the stories you told me yesterday." The rancher's eyes twinkled slightly. "Curiosity is a good thing, but remember, it must be guided. Today, I have something different for you. It's time to learn more than just watching. It's time to participate." The boy's heart raced. He had been waiting for a chance to do more than just observe. He had been eager to prove himself. to show that he was not just a child wandering through the fields, but someone capable of understanding the land. The rancher led him to the pasture where a few horses were grazing. "We need to check on the animals, see if they are healthy, and make sure the fences are strong. It may sound simple, but it teaches attention and care. Every detail matters, from the strength of a fence post to the way a horse's ears move. They communicate more than you might think." The boy nodded eagerly and followed instructions carefully. He learned how to check the horse's hooves, feeling the strong, warm bones beneath their soft fur. He learned to notice how the animals moved, how they reacted to the smallest changes in their environment, and how even a slight limp or twitch could tell a story about their health. As he worked, the boy began to see patterns. He realized that the land itself seemed alive, almost as if it were a puzzle waiting to be understood. The way the grass grew in patches, the direction of the wind, the flow of water from the stream, it all made sense when observed carefully. The rancher watched him closely, nodding in approval when the boy noticed small details that others might have missed. After the morning chores, the rancher led the boy to the edge of the property, where the old oak tree stood. The tree was massive, its roots twisting like ancient snakes through the soil. Its branches stretched high into the sky, providing shade and shelter for birds and small animals. The boy felt a strange sense of awe standing beneath it, as though he were in the presence of something much older and wiser than himself. "Yesterday you found something near this tree," the rancher said, breaking the silence. "Today I want you to look closer. Not just at what you see on the surface, but at what might be hidden." "Sometimes the smallest things have the greatest importance." The boy crouched down, scanning the ground carefully. He noticed a faint trail in the dirt, almost invisible unless one looked closely. It was as if someone, or something, had passed by recently. His curiosity deepened, and he followed the trail slowly, step by step, careful not to disturb it. The trail led him to a small, hidden hollow beneath the roots of the tree. Inside, the earth had been disturbed, as though someone had been digging. There were small, broken branches scattered around, and a few leaves that seemed out of place. The boy's heart thumped. He had expected to find another stone, perhaps, but this was different. It was a sign that something, or someone, had been here before him. He called the rancher over. "Look! Something was here recently," he exclaimed. The rancher knelt beside him, examining the hollow carefully. "Interesting," he murmured. "You see, most people would walk right past this and never notice. But your eyes are learning to see beyond the obvious. That is important. Knowledge begins with observation, and observation begins with respect."
The boy felt a sense of pride.
He realized that the rancher was not just teaching him about chores or animals. He was teaching him how to think, how to pay attention, and how to understand the world around him. Each lesson felt like a key unlocking a part of the larger mystery of the land. As the day went on, the boy and the rancher explored more of the fields, following small signs and patterns. They discovered tracks of wild animals, small burrows hidden in the grass, and even an abandoned bird's nest tucked safely in a bush. The rancher explained how each discovery told a story of survival, movement, and life that most people ignored. The boy listened intently, absorbing every word, every detail. During a break under the shade of a tree, the rancher spoke of patience. "Some things take time to reveal themselves. Not everything is immediate. The land has its own rhythm, its own secrets. To understand it, you must learn to wait, to observe, and to respect what is there before you take anything from it." The boy nodded thoughtfully. He understood that his eagerness yesterday had led him to act too quickly, and that patience was part of true discovery. He felt a deeper connection to the ranch and to the land itself. As afternoon approached, the boy noticed a faint glimmer in the distance, half hidden among tall grass near the edge of the creek. His curiosity surged. He pointed it out to the rancher. The rancher examined it and smiled slightly. "Ah, you see something new. That is good. Curiosity guided by observation will take you far. But remember, approach carefully. Not all that glitters is immediately understood." Together they approached the glimmer. As they got closer, the boy realized it was a small piece of metal partly buried in the mud. It was shaped strangely, unlike any tool he had seen before. The rancher picked it up, brushing away dirt and examining it carefully.
"This is old," the rancher said. "Very old."
It may have been here for decades, forgotten by everyone who passed this way. Items like this can tell stories of people who came before us, of lives lived and lost, of choices made.
Sometimes the smallest object holds a greater meaning than an entire book.
The boy felt a thrill. The land was alive with secrets, and he was slowly learning to read them. He understood that each object, each pattern, was a piece of a larger puzzle, a puzzle he was only beginning to uncover. As the sun began to lower in the sky, painting the fields with golden light, the boy and the rancher returned to the farmhouse. They carried the small metal object carefully, placing it on the shelves alongside the stone from the previous day. The boy realized that the collection was more than just objects. It was a storybook, a history written in the language of the land itself. That evening, as they sat by the fireplace, the rancher told the boy stories of the past, of travelers who had passed through the fields, of objects left behind, and of the lessons those objects taught. The boy listened, captivated, feeling that he was part of something much larger than himself. He began to understand that the land was not just a place to work, but a teacher, guiding those willing to learn. Before going to bed, the boy looked out the window at the old oak tree silhouetted against the evening sky. He felt a sense of wonder and purpose, knowing that there were more mysteries waiting for him to discover. Each day would bring new lessons, new discoveries, and new stories. And with the rancher's guidance, he felt ready to face them all. The boy's mind drifted as he fell asleep, thinking of the trails, the hollow beneath the oak, and the shiny piece of metal. He realized that his journey had only just begun. The land was alive, full of secrets and stories, and he was learning to read its language, one careful observation at a time. The next morning the boy woke with the sun spilling gold across the floorboards of the farmhouse. He stretched and rubbed his eyes, eager to see what the day would bring. Yesterday's discovery still ran through his mind. The hidden hollow beneath the oak tree, the shiny stone, and the small metal object. It was as if the land itself was calling him, whispering secrets he had yet to uncover. He quickly got dressed and ran outside. The air was fresh, carrying the scent of dew-soaked grass and the faint tang of hay from the barn. The rancher was already in the field, checking the fences near the creek. When he saw the boy approaching, he waved.
"Good morning,"
The boy called, slightly out of breath from running.
"Morning," the rancher replied, his voice steady. "Are you ready for today?" "It will be different. You will see the discovery sometimes comes with responsibility, and patience alone is not always enough."
The boy's curiosity surged.
"Responsibility?"
What did the rancher mean? He followed closely as the man led him across the pasture, past the grazing horses, and into a section of the field they had not explored before.
This area was wilder, the grass taller, and the ground uneven with small mounds and dips. The boy noticed tiny tracks in the soft earth, marks that suggested animals or people had passed through recently.
"Look carefully," the rancher said. "The land leaves signs, but not all of them are easy to read."
"Sometimes you must think, observe, and decide what action to take. That is responsibility."
The boy crouched down, scanning the tracks. He noticed the faint imprint of something small and light, perhaps a rabbit, and then a larger, heavier mark that seemed to belong to a human. His mind raced. Who could have been here?
Why, and what might they have left behind?
As they walked further, they came across a small stream, its water clear and cold. The rancher paused and pointed to the ground near the bank.
"See this?"
he asked. The boy leaned closer. Embedded in the mud was a small, worn leather pouch. The stitching was frayed, and the leather softened by years of rain and sun. The boy's heart beat faster.
"Another discovery."
He reached out cautiously, remembering the rancher's lessons about patience and respect. He lifted the pouch and examined it.
It was small, but heavy enough to suggest something valuable inside. "Careful," the rancher said, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. You must always treat objects with respect. Sometimes the past is fragile, and the lessons it carries are delicate. Open it slowly, and think before you act. The boy nodded, his hands trembling slightly with excitement. He slowly untied the tiny leather cord, revealing the contents inside. To his surprise, there were several folded papers, yellowed with age, along with a small key. The boy's eyes widened. What could these papers be? What door or chest might the key unlock? The rancher looked at him, his expression serious. These things do not reveal themselves all at once. You must learn to read them, understand them, and wait for the right moment to use what you find. But today, I want you to help me find the origin of this pouch. That will be your responsibility. The boy nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and nervousness. Responsibility meant action, and action meant mistakes could happen. But he was determined to do his best. They followed the stream toward a small grove of trees where the ground dipped slightly into a shallow valley. The rancher explained that many years ago, this part of the land had been a meeting place for travelers and workers, who sometimes left behind objects and messages. Things left behind are like footprints in time, the rancher said. They tell us about people who came before, their struggles, their hopes, and sometimes their secrets. The boy carefully held the pouch, glancing at the papers. The writing was faded, almost impossible to read in places, but he could make out a few words, names, dates, and references to landmarks on the ranch. He realized that this was more than just a simple find. It was a clue, a story waiting to be pieced together. They continued walking through the grove, looking for anything that might match the descriptions on the papers. Small symbols carved into tree trunks, rocks stacked in unusual ways, and faint paths that had been overgrown with grass all became points of interest. The boy's eyes were sharp, catching details he had never noticed before. Each clue built upon the last, and he felt as though he was stepping into a puzzle that had been waiting decades for someone to solve. By midday, they reached a small clearing where sunlight filtered through the branches, illuminating a spot on the ground that seemed slightly disturbed. The rancher knelt and brushed away leaves, revealing the top of a wooden box hidden beneath soil and roots. The boy's heart leapt. This must be what the papers and the key were pointing to. The rancher looked at him, his gaze steady. This is your moment. You must decide how to proceed. Will you open it carefully, or will impatience ruin what has been preserved? The boy nodded, understanding the weight of responsibility. He carefully inserted the key into the lock and turned it slowly. The mechanism clicked, and the lid lifted with a soft creak. Inside were more papers, old photographs, and small objects that seemed ordinary at first glance. But as the boy examined them, he realized that each piece told a story of a family that had lived on this land long ago, of people who had loved, worked, and dreamed in the same fields he now walked. He felt a connection to them, a sense of continuity that stretched across time. The rancher watched silently, allowing the boy to explore and understand at his own pace. Every discovery has meaning, he said finally. It teaches us not just about the past, but about ourselves. You see what it means to care, to be patient, and to pay attention. That is the lesson. The boy carefully packed the items back into the box, ensuring that nothing was disturbed. He realized that these were treasures not because of their material value, but because of the stories they carried. He felt proud of himself, knowing that he had honored the past and learned something invaluable. As they walked back to the farmhouse, the rancher explained that discovery often came with challenges. Sometimes it was the land itself that tested patience, curiosity, and judgment. Sometimes it was the responsibility to act carefully that mattered more than the excitement of finding something new. The boy listened, absorbing every word. He felt as though he was becoming part of a larger story, one that included not just the rancher and himself, but all the people who had walked these fields before. That evening, as they sat by the fireplace, the boy carefully examined the papers again, tracing the handwriting with his fingers. He began to imagine the lives of the people who had left them behind, their hopes, fears, and dreams. He realized that the land was a teacher, but its lessons were not always simple. Understanding took time, observation, and respect. He looked at the rancher, who was quietly watching him. "Thank you, sir," the boy said softly.
I understand now. It's not just about finding things. It's about learning from them, respecting them, and understanding the people behind them."
The rancher smiled faintly.
Exactly. You are learning well. And remember, the land always has more to teach. This is only the beginning. There will be more mysteries, more lessons, and more discoveries, but patience and respect will always guide you.
As the boy drifted off to sleep that night, he felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever. The land was alive with stories, and he was learning to read them.
Each day brought new lessons, new responsibilities, and new mysteries. And he understood that his journey was not just about curiosity. It was about growing, learning, and connecting with the past, the present, and the future.
He closed his eyes, imagining the hidden corners of the ranch, the trails, the trees, and the secrets waiting to be discovered. He knew that tomorrow would bring more adventures, more lessons, and perhaps another discovery that would test his patience, his courage, and his understanding of the world around him. And he was ready. The morning was quiet, the sky painted with soft pink and orange hues as the sun began to rise. The boy woke with a sense of anticipation buzzing in his chest.
Yesterday had been extraordinary. Discovering the hidden pouch, the key, and the old box had made him feel like he had stepped into another time. He wondered what the day would hold, and he could hardly wait to find out.
He dressed quickly, pulling on his worn boots and tucking his shirt into his trousers. The crisp morning air greeted him as he stepped outside. The ranch was alive with sounds, horses moving gently in the fields, birds singing from the trees, and the distant clatter of the rancher checking fences. The boy took a deep breath, feeling ready for whatever adventure awaited him. The rancher was already waiting near the barn, his eyes scanning the horizon.
"Good morning,"
the boy said, approaching with a smile.
"Morning," the rancher replied. "I have something different planned for today. Yesterday you discovered the past, but today you will see how the present can challenge you. Observation is important, but so is action. Sometimes what you find requires not only curiosity, but courage." The boy's heart skipped a beat. Courage? He had learned patience and observation, but courage was something new.
His mind raced with possibilities as he followed the rancher to the far end of the property, where the land rose into gentle hills dotted with wildflowers and tall grasses. The rancher stopped at a small wooden gate, old but sturdy, which led to a part of the land that seemed less familiar.
"This area is different," the rancher explained. "It is not dangerous, but it tests attention and decision-making. I want you to explore a small section of it and report back what you find. Remember, your eyes are your guide, but your mind and judgment are just as important."
The boy nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He stepped through the gate slowly, taking in the new terrain.
The grass here was taller and softer underfoot, and he noticed a small path winding between the hills, almost hidden from view. He followed it carefully, eyes scanning for signs or clues.
Soon he spotted something unusual, a series of footprints in the damp earth, leading toward a cluster of rocks. They looked fresh, but there was something strange about them. The footprints were small, almost childlike, yet the depth suggested that whoever had made them was carrying something heavy. The boy's curiosity surged. He followed the trail cautiously, aware of every sound, every movement around him. The trail led him to a narrow opening between two large boulders. Beyond the rocks, he could see a small hollow in the ground, covered with moss and leaves. It looked like a natural shelter, but the boy noticed small items scattered around the entrance, sticks arranged in a pattern, and a few broken twigs that seemed deliberately placed. His mind raced. Someone had been here recently, and they had left signs, perhaps to guide or warn. He called out softly,
"Sir, I think someone has been here."
The rancher appeared behind him, having followed quietly.
"Good observation," he said. "Now, what do you think these signs mean?"
The boy examined the sticks and twigs carefully.
"It looks like a pattern.
Maybe a way to mark the path? Or a message? The rancher nodded. Exactly. People, and sometimes animals, leave signals. Understanding them is important. But remember, not every signal is friendly. You must proceed with care. The boy swallowed, feeling a mixture of fear and excitement. He took a deep breath and stepped into the hollow. Inside, the space was larger than he expected. Moss-covered stones lined the walls, and the soft ground beneath his feet muffled his steps. As he explored, he noticed a small leather bag tucked behind one of the stones. It was similar to the pouch they had found before, but this one was older, dirtier, and tied tightly with a rough string. He looked at the rancher. "Should I open it?" The rancher studied the boy carefully. "You must decide. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. Think carefully and act responsibly." The boy nodded, taking a moment to steady himself. He untied the string slowly, feeling the weight of the bag in his hands. Inside were several small objects, a folded map, a carved wooden token, and a tiny metal compass. The boy's eyes widened. Each item seemed ordinary, but he sensed that they were important, part of a story that had been hidden for years. The rancher crouched beside him. "Maps are guides, but they only work if you understand what they show. Tokens carry meaning, often personal or symbolic. And compasses. They point the way, but only if you know how to read them." The boy studied the map carefully. It was hand-drawn with landmarks he recognized, streams, hills, trees, and some he did not. Lines connected points in a way that suggested a path or a journey. He realized that this was more than just an object. It was a guide, left behind by someone who had walked these lands long before him. "Sir," the boy said, his voice filled with awe, "this could be part of a bigger story." "Someone wanted to leave a message. Maybe for someone like me," the rancher smiled faintly. "Perhaps. Or maybe for anyone who had the patience and curiosity to find it. Remember, the land teaches lessons to those who pay attention. You are learning quickly." The boy felt a surge of pride. He realized that courage was not just about facing danger. It was about stepping forward, observing, and making choices with care. The hollow, the objects, and the map were all part of that lesson. As they emerged from the hollow, the rancher guided the boy to a nearby hilltop. From there, the boy could see the entire ranch spread out before him, the barn, the fields, the creek, and the old oak tree. The landscape seemed alive, full of paths, signs, and hidden stories waiting to be discovered. "Look closely," the rancher said. "See how everything is connected? Streams lead to fields, paths wind through hills, and objects like the ones you found tell stories of people who have been here before. Understanding connections is part of courage. Sometimes knowing where to step next is more important than what you carry in your hands." The boy nodded, taking in the view. He noticed how the wind bent the grass, how shadows shifted with the sun, and how the birds followed certain paths. Everything seemed to have a purpose, a hidden pattern waiting to be understood. Later that afternoon, as they returned to the farmhouse, the rancher gave the boy a simple but important task. "Take care of these objects for now. Observe them, think about their meaning, and be ready to use what you have learned when the time comes. The land will continue to teach you, but you must prepare yourself for challenges that will require more than curiosity and patience. Courage will be tested, and so will your judgment." The boy accepted the responsibility with determination. He understood that the discoveries were more than treasures. They were lessons. Every object, every pattern, and every mark on the land was part of a larger story, one that required respect, care, and thoughtful action. That evening, as the sun set behind the hills, the boy sat by the fireplace with the rancher, examining the map and tokens again. He traced the lines on the paper with his fingers, imagining the paths they represented, and thought about the person who had left them behind. Who were they? What had they hoped to teach? The boy realized that his journey was only becoming more complex, and that each discovery would bring not just answers, but questions, challenges, and choices.
As he lay in bed that night, the boy felt a mix of excitement and determination. The land was full of mysteries, and he was learning to navigate them. He understood that courage, patience, and careful observation were all part of becoming someone who could understand the world around him. He closed his eyes, thinking of the hollow, the map, and the tiny compass, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons, and perhaps another step toward uncovering the deeper secrets of the ranch. And he was ready to face them all. The next morning, the boy woke with a mixture of excitement and determination. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting long shadows across the ranch. He could hear the soft sounds of the animals stirring in the barn, and the distant clatter of the rancher moving about. Today felt different. Yesterday had taught him about courage, responsibility, and careful observation, but today he sensed that he would face a lesson that would test everything he had learned so far. He dressed quickly and stepped outside, the cool morning air brushing against his face. The field stretched out before him, golden and green, bathed in soft sunlight. The boy's eyes scanned the landscape, noticing the patterns of the land, the way the creek curved through the fields, the shadows under the trees, and the faint paths that wound between hills. Each detail seemed alive, as if the land itself was waiting to guide him. The rancher was already at the barn, watching the horses with quiet attentiveness. When he saw the boy approach, he smiled faintly. "Ready for today?" he asked. "Yes, sir," the boy replied, trying to hide his nervous excitement. "I think I am." "Good," the rancher said. "Today you will use everything you have learned: patience, observation, courage, and understanding. The objects you found, the map, and the compass, all point towards something important. You must interpret, decide, and act. That is the true test." The boy felt a rush of determination. He had grown so much since the day he found the first stone near the old oak tree. He understood now that discovery was not just about curiosity, but about respect, patience, and thoughtful action. The rancher led him toward the far side of the property, where the hills became steeper and the grass taller. The boy followed closely, carrying the leather pouch with a map, compass, and token. The map had become his guide, showing landmarks he recognized: the creek, the grove of trees, and the old oak. But there were other points marked on the paper, mysterious symbols that he did not yet understand. "Remember," the rancher said, "a map shows possibilities, not certainties. Observation and judgment are as important as following lines on paper." The boy nodded and began to study the map carefully. Using the compass, he determined the correct direction to follow. As he walked, he noticed small signs in the land: slightly flattened grass, subtle shifts in the dirt, and even tiny scratches on tree trunks. These were the marks of someone who had passed this way before, and the boy felt a thrill. He was tracing a path laid by someone long ago, and every step brought him closer to understanding their story. The journey led him to a small valley hidden between the hills. The valley was quiet, with the gentle breeze rustling the leaves. A narrow stream ran through it, and sunlight danced on the water, creating sparkling patterns. The boy knelt by the stream to examine the map and compass. Noticing that a symbol on the map matched a large rock at the edge of the water, he approached it carefully. The rock was unusual, not just in shape, but in the markings etched into its surface. They were faint, almost hidden, but the boy could make out symbols similar to those on the map. His heart raced. He realized that this was the final clue, the key to understanding everything he had discovered so far. "Sir," he called softly, "I think I've found it, the place the map was pointing to." The rancher approached silently, nodding in approval. "Well done. Now, use what you have learned. Observe, think, and act carefully. The final step requires patience, not haste." The boy examined the markings on the rock and the surrounding area. He noticed a shallow indentation at the base of the rock, almost hidden by moss. Carefully, he placed the carved wooden token from the pouch into the indentation. It fit perfectly. The boy felt a small click, and the ground beneath the rock shifted slightly, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a small wooden chest, worn by time but still strong. The boy's hands trembled as he opened it.
Inside were more objects. Letters, photographs, and simple tools, but most importantly, there was a journal, its pages yellowed and delicate. The boy picked it up with care, realizing that he was holding the thoughts and stories of someone who had lived and worked on this land many years before. The rancher stood beside him, watching silently. These are treasures, not because of their material value, but because of the stories they carry. They connect the past to the present, and they teach us lessons about patience, respect, and understanding. The boy opened the journal carefully, reading the first few pages. It told the story of a family who had worked on the ranch long ago, leaving behind objects, clues, and symbols to guide future generations. They had wanted to teach the values of observation, courage, and respect for the land. Every object the boy had found, the stone, the metal piece, the map, and the token, was part of this carefully laid plan. A wave of awe washed over him. He realized that he had been part of something much larger than himself. The discoveries were not random. They were lessons designed to test his curiosity, patience, and judgment. And through each step, he had proven himself worthy of understanding the secrets of the ranch. "Sir," the boy said softly, "I think I understand now. All the things I found, they weren't just treasures. They were lessons. They were teaching me how to see, how to think, and how to respect the land and its history." The rancher nodded, a proud smile on his face. "Exactly, and you have learned well. Curiosity brought you here, but patience, courage, and careful observation allowed you to understand that is the true reward." The boy carefully closed the chest and placed it back in its hidden compartment. He realized that while it was important to uncover the past, it was even more important to protect it and learn from it. Every item, every clue, every story was part of the land, and he had a responsibility to honor it. As they walked back toward the farmhouse, the boy felt a new sense of confidence. He had grown through each discovery, learning not just about the land but about himself. He had faced uncertainty, followed clues, and made careful decisions. He understood that courage was not about fearlessness, but about acting wisely in the face of the unknown. Back at the farmhouse, the rancher handed the boy a small notebook and pencil. "Record what you have learned," he said. "Write down the observations, the discoveries, and the lessons. One day, these notes may help someone else, just as the objects and journal helped you." The boy eagerly took the notebook and began writing. He recorded the paths, the hidden objects, the clues, and the lessons he had learned along the way. Each word reminded him of the challenges he had faced and the growth he had achieved. As evening fell, the boy and the rancher sat outside, watching the sun dip below the hills. The sky was painted in brilliant shades of orange, pink, and purple. The boy felt a deep sense of satisfaction and peace. He understood that the ranch was more than just a place to live or work. It was a teacher, guiding him through patience, observation, courage, and understanding. "Tomorrow," the rancher said quietly, "there will be more to learn, but remember what you have discovered today. Knowledge is a journey, and every step matters." The boy nodded, looking out at the fields he had explored so carefully. He realized that he was no longer the same boy who had nervously held a small stone near the oak tree. He had grown, learned, and discovered not just objects, but the values that would guide him throughout life. As he lay in bed that night, he thought of the hidden chest, the journal, the map, and the token. He thought of the land, the trees, the stream, and the paths he had followed. And he knew that while the journey of discovery might continue, he had already taken the most important step: learning to see, understand, and respect the world around him. A sense of calm and purpose filled him as he drifted to sleep. The land was alive with stories, and he had become a part of them. Each day would bring new lessons, new discoveries, and new challenges, but he was ready, patient, observant, courageous, and thoughtful. And for the first time, he felt that he truly belonged.